I did already have Scott and Melanie. To start the meeting. And I just ask all administration to turn off their cameras for now, and we'll leave council up.
Good evening, everyone. Just like to call to order the open council meeting for May 17th, 2021. With that, I'll pass it over to the clerk to get it started.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to start this evening with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are on the lands of Anishinaabe Nation. This spot where we gather is the traditional lands of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Delaware Nation. This land was settled through the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we, as beneficiaries of the treaty, must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. Mr. Mayor, there has been no supplementary agenda for this evening, and we have two disclosures of pecuniary interest. The first one is Councillor Solomon with regards to 9D, and we also have one from Councillor Carmen McGregor on 9G. So I'll hand it over to Ryan to begin the planning meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. This is Ryan Jocks, Director of Planning Services. The process to be followed for each application will be as follows. 1, the clerk will announce each individual planning item. 2, the clerk will advise if any written submissions have been received regarding a planning item. If so, the clerk will read the written submissions that have been received. 3, for any items where a written submission is received, administration will proceed with the presentation. 4, council will be asked if it has any questions of administration or the applicant, if present. 5, council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the item. Notice, if any person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of council in respect of the proposed applications does not make a submission to the municipal clerk of the corporation of the municipality of Chatham-Kent before the proposal is approved, they are not entitled to appeal a decision to the local planning appeal tribunal if otherwise eligible, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as party to the appeal. Information on council's actions tonight will be posted on the municipal website. All persons who have made a request or who have made a submission regarding a particular planning item will receive a notice of council's decision, including appeal procedures. Any other person who wishes to receive a notice of decision must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with 9A, applications for zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision 2811629 Ontario Inc. Isaac Street, Elizabeth Street, and Camden Street, Community of Dresden, North Kent. Mr. Mayor, we have the applicant and agents both on the line. We also have received 8 deputations with regards to item 9A, and the clerk's office is happy to read those now. I will begin with 9A from Mr. Adam Holmes. I would like to voice my concerns with the new proposed subdivision in Dresden, Elizabeth Street. We bought our home, 664 Isaac Street, 8 years ago with fields and privacy all around. Since we've had homes being built all around us, with this new proposed subdivision, we will no longer watch birds in the fields and crops grown. Instead, we will look at the roof lines of 40 new potential homes, not to mention the noise of servicing, building homes for the next 5 to 10 years as we try and relax by our pool. We are also concerned of the increased traffic that will come of both the building, dwelling of these new homes. We were recently contacted about rezoning the land to the north of us. Now this proposal to the south. Is this the new normal? I am hoping the flood zone conservation conversation zoning will protect the west side of the property, but I am not so sure anymore. Please take my concerns into consideration. Thanks for your time, Adam Holmes.
The next deputation is from Don Martin. Regarding the proposed subdivision and rezoning, I, Don Martin, live at 670 Camden Street, Dresden, have the following questions and concerns. Was a traffic study conducted? If so, what were the results? If not, why not? Concerned that all traffic, current and future, is dependent on Camden Street. Conditions of the road. The condition of the road is in need of updating and repair. Concern of Camden Street entrance and exit in relation to the bridge and blind spots, making it challenging to safely enter the traffic on and off Main Street or George Street. Surface drainage during any rain is poor. Pooling of water occurs on the shoulders and becomes a hazard. Emergency exits are challenging out of the area, especially if traffic all relies on Camden Street. Industrial and heavy agricultural equipment from 700 Camden and 657 Camden is concerning to aging and children population in the subdivision, especially if Camden becomes the secondary exit through the proposed park. With regards to potential residential lots to the west of the subdivision proposal, the traffic study needs to be assessed. With regards to the planned park area, why is there a planned 8-meter near the future right-of-way near Camden? Is this for a planned secondary exit? If so, why is it not marked as such? If not, why was this adjustment made on the border of the property? Why is 670 Camden shown to have 2 lots on the key map? The property is 1 lot. Who will maintain the proposed park? Elevation between the proposed park and 670 Camden is 6 to 8 feet different. Will the developer fix the grade if required and repair the grade affected on 670 Camden? The grade between the lots 650 to 670 and subject lands, water should not drain towards Camden. Note regarding sidewalks. There are no sidewalks on Camden past Dee Street. No sidewalks on Dee Street. The notice of public meeting sign was not visible on May 8th, 2021. The semi-detached dwelling on the planning evaluation, page 8 from Dillon Consulting, stated the rear yard depth minimum is NA. Why? Camden Street homes do not want homes placed on the property line. This does not seem logical. Thank you for receiving these questions. Don Martin.
Next deputation is also about 9A, Chatham-Kent Municipal Council. My name is Faith Houston, and I live at 152 DD Street, directly bordering the proposed Elizabeth Street in Dresden and new proposed subdivision. I have some concerns and some general reminders as per bylaw about the proposed road and subsequent subdivision. I am seriously discouraged, annoyed, and feel disrespected by the proposed new subdivision. DD Street is an extremely quiet neighborhood, and this new subdivision, with only one entrance exit into the subdivision via Elizabeth Street, is going to triple, even quadrupling traffic to my very quiet neighborhood street. I've lived here 8 years with it being a quiet neighborhood and don't feel it is respectful to have all of this traffic that is going to come with this new subdivision. Kids ride their bikes up and down DD Street, play basketball, soccer, and rollerblade. Is that going to be feasible with this new subdivision and ensuing traffic? Absolutely not. Kids should feel safe using the street without a fear of constant cars going in and out of Elizabeth Street. If your answer to this is that the municipality will put up a slow children at play signs, I say no deal. Those signs don't work. I lived in a neighborhood where one was posted and drivers still took the roadway too fast. If your response is that there will be a park that kids can play at, again, I say no deal. Kids can't ride their bikes or scooter at a park. I am proposing that there be another entrance or exit off Isaac Street or Camden Street during phase 1 of this subdivision. The only people that are benefiting from this subdivision is the builder and the dollars that he'll receive by putting so many houses in a small area. This new subdivision needs to be feasible for all involved, not just the municipality and CK Council and the builder. Traffic needs to be dispersed from having Elizabeth Street for entering and exiting constantly. When building a new subdivision, Chatham-Kent needs to consider the citizens that previously lived in the neighborhood and how it might affect their life. CK Council needs to consider current tax-paying citizens versus the money that they are going to receive from opening up a new subdivision. I am requesting that the traffic flow from this subdivision also be diverted over to another road, not just using Elizabeth Street as an entrance exit, out of respect for all citizens, mainly my neighbors at 158 DD Street and myself at 152 DD Street. Please look at 2.4.2.2.14 of the Chatham-Kent Plan that was published in 2018. Concerns. Once construction starts on the street, who is going to make sure my yard remains clean? If there is mud and garbage spreading onto my property, who is going to take care of that? I'm going to be an upset homeowner if there is garbage spreading into my yard and therefore my house exterior and yard looks dirty and trashed from this proposed street. Just a gentle reminder, a road cannot be built any closer than 3.75 meters to a structure and/or house. I have measured out from the house at 158 DD Street, and the line that a road can start being built is further out than the property line. A sidewalk needs to be proposed and factored into any plans now, so no lands need to be borrowed off of neighboring houses from Elizabeth Street. Road width allowance. 66 meters as per the map that has been provided to me. There is barely enough space for the road without sitting basically on my neighbor's house. Is that considerate to them? What happens in the wintertime with snow removal? There is no area to be dumping a bunch of snow on either 158 DD or 152 DD without causing a major road hazard to anyone pulling out from 152 or 158, either from obstruction of visibility from cars coming out of the subdivision or coming down DD Street. I have also been informed by a neighbor that DD Street isn't formulated to carry heavyweight traffic of trucks, caterpillars, and constant vehicles. Isaac Street and Camden Street are considered truck routes versus DD Street is a secondary route or street. When DD Street starts to break down from constant traffic and weight, who is going to pay for the new road to be installed? It better not be DD Street residents, since none of the residents wanted this new subdivision and/or road. Are we going to have access to our backyard? Because right now there is no solid curb, and once the street goes in, we need to be able to continue to get into our backyard without having to jump the curb with our lawnmower. Where are streetlights going to be installed? My neighbors or myself don't want a streetlight glaring into our bedroom windows. In conclusion, the taxpayers of DD Street would like the council to consider a secondary road for this subdivision in phase 1. A couple of my neighbors have lived on this street for over 40 years and didn't ask for all the traffic that's going to come from this new subdivision by only having one enter-exit. I beg of council to consider my request. For many of us on this street, we live in this neighbor and Dresden as a whole because it is such a quiet area. But that is going to be stripped away from us because of a subdivision and constant traffic. All the houses of DD Street deserve to live in a neighborhood where kids can play outside on the street, riding their bikes without fear of being run over. People sitting on their front porches because it's quiet and peaceful. All the names on this petition are all the houses on DD Street and are speaking up for what we believe is fair to all and not just the council and builder that doesn't want to install another road, thus spending more money. Thank you for your time, and please consider the taxpayers that have lived in this neighborhood for 5 to 50 plus years. And this has been signed by Faith Houston at 152 DD Street, Greg Houston at 152 DD Street, Brian Hornick at 158 DD Street, and Evan Fife at 158 DD Street, in addition to a number of other homeowners.
Council, I am writing today to express my concern regarding the new subdivision proposal down the road from me. I am a long-term resident of Camden Street and do not support this development. I kindly ask you reconsider for the following reasons. From my understanding, there will be over 40 homes built. This is more than anyone ever expected, which means a significant increase in traffic flow down Camden, Isaac, and DD throughout construction and post-construction. Our roads simply can't handle this influx of traffic. The safety of young children in the area, including my grandchildren, is of the utmost importance, and I see some safety concerns. We live in this area for a quieter small town for a reason. If I wanted to live in a busy suburb, we would move to Toronto. We do not need to have all rural property converted to residential. Leisure Lane is one thing, but converting beautiful landscape into crammed subdivisions is not beneficial to our community. If you were a current land home owner who appreciated the quieter neighborhood and you were told a large-scale subdivision was being built, I doubt you would be happy either. Please reconsider this proposal and do not approve. Thank you, Jeff McFadden, resident of Dresden, Camden Street.
The next deputation is from Kevin Polland. My name is Kevin Polland of 668 Camden Street, Dresden, Ontario. I would like to share my questions and concerns regarding the application of the zoning bylaw amendment and the subdivision draft plan for Northwest Dresden. Will the developer ensure that all grading is adequate at the rear of Camden Street properties that are adjacent to the lots south of the proposed Elizabeth Street extension? There is concern for water and drainage issues as the land currently slopes towards DD Street. Has a traffic impact study been considered, as all traffic will be going out either Camden or Isaac Street? Currently, streets and intersections in the neighborhood have drainage issues with water pooling on shoulders. This can be a safety issue for cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles. Will existing streets be upgraded because of the increased traffic? If Camden Street right-of-way extension becomes an alternate exit due to future development, a traffic study should be done because of the adjacent agricultural and industrial traffic. Thank you, Kevin Polland.
This next deputation is by Kip and Kathleen Betts, again with respect to subdivision at Isaac Street, Camden, and Elizabeth Street in Dresden. We write in connection with the above planning application. We have examined the plans and live directly south of the proposed site. We wish to strongly object to the following. Number one, rezoning of residential RL1-977 single-family dwellings to RL2-1543 semi-detached dwellings. When we purchased our property, we bought it with the plans showing single-family dwelling only. Number two, the proposed number of dwellings, another drastic change from original plans. Number three, we would also object to any future entrances off Camden or Isaac Street. Other concerns are, number one, current road conditions withstanding 80+ vehicles coming and going. So would new roads be poured? Number two, safety of children due to traffic flow. So a request for a 3-way stop or something in place for safety at corners of proposed streets involved. Number three, a fence erected behind Camden Street homes for privacy, as the plan has drastically grown from original, which would take away any privacy we now have, especially if semi-detached homes go directly behind us. Number four, we are interested in a timeline as well. Are we given a guarantee when construction should be finished due to blowing dirt and noise? We don't want this to drag on. Number five, sidewalks on DD Street are a must for safety as well due to increased traffic. Thank you for your time. Please notify us on final decisions. Respectfully, Kim and Kathleen Betts.
The next deputation is from Adam and Katie Holmes. The purpose of this letter is to voice our concerns regarding the proposed subdivision located on Isaac Street, Elizabeth Street, and Camden Street in the community of Dresden. We are born and raised in Dresden and proud of our growing community, where we do have some concerns regarding the proposed plan, and we hope our concerns are thoughtfully considered. Our concerns are outlined below. 1, the proposed number of dwellings. We believe this number is far too large. Cramming 40 homes on this piece of land is way more than we ever expected. For instance, the original plan we reviewed when we were interested in purchasing property showed 5 lots behind the new homes on Camden Street. This is now increased to 16 semi-detached homes. We are creating a suburb where people have zero peace or privacy. We were originally attracted to this part of town because of the peaceful environment, privacy, add rural surroundings, and now we have 40 new families across the road, including 80+ vehicles coming in and out of the area daily. Our ask is to reduce the number of dwellings. Number 2, the current road will not withstand 80+ vehicles coming and going. We would expect new roads to be poured to withstand all the traffic. 3, we have 2 young children and their safety is of concern to us. The subdivision would bring dozens of cars in and out of the area nonstop. We would recommend a 3-way stop to be installed to slow down traffic traveling from Camden to DD Street. Number 4, a sidewalk on DD Street would be recommended for safety measures as well. Number 5, we want to ensure there will only be one entrance exit located on DD Street. We are not supportive of additional entrances on Camden or Isaac streets. Number 6, this is an extremely large project, which means years upon years of construction, noise, and mess. We are very disappointed that we will have to deal with the noise for many years. Is there a way to put a cap on the length of a construction? If so, that would be appreciated. Number 7, we ask that if changes are made to the proposed plan, i.e. instance additional dwellings or entrances are added or removed, we and the rest of the surrounding neighbors are notified. I understand as a builder, this is your job to expand communities, but we also need to respect and listen to the concerns of existing long-term residents of Dresden. We ask that we be notified of the municipality's decision of the proposed plan. Thank you for your time and consideration, Adam and Katie Holmes.
And the last deputation on this item is from Phil Richards. I sold some of the land for this plan. In the agreement of sale, it stated that on the west side of Camden Street, the land would be used for stormwater management and green space or parkland. On this plan, lot 18, 19, and 20 are showing on the green space area. Since I did not agree to any change from the original agreement, I strongly object to any lots being proposed on this area of the property. Phil Richards.
Mr. Jacques, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The subject lands are located in the northwest portion of Dresden. The map on the left is an overview of Dresden. The blue arrow indicates the general location of these lands. South of Isaac Street, north of Camden Street, and west of DD Street. They're bound on 3 sides by existing low-density residential development toward town, and then toward the west, agricultural farmland. The subject lands comprise of currently of 3 different parcels. There is an existing municipally owned right-of-way called Elizabeth Street, which bisects the 2 privately held parcels, all of which comprise the proposed development lands. These lands are approximately 4.5 hectares in area or 11 acres in area. There continues to be high demand across Ontario for new residential dwellings. Chatham-Kent is no different in experiencing this level of demand. In Dresden, there are only 2 areas planned for future residential growth. One being the proposed subdivision lands in the northwest, as well as there is some vacant residential designated lands in southwest as well. Dresden has most recently experienced new residential development through approvals given by Municipal Council in 2007 and 2008. These subdivisions comprise of the existing streets Venture Crescent, extensions of Davie Street East, and Leisure Lane, north of Traris Street. This development, which has built out over the past 13 years or so, was approximately the same size, number of lots, and density as the proposal before Council this evening. That development is largely built out at this time, and new lands in Dresden are required to be developed if new housing is going to continue to be built in the community. The applicant has submitted 2 different applications for Council's consideration. The first is a zoning bylaw amendment. The zoning bylaw amendment is to implement the preferred housing types over the lands. These housing types include a combination of single detached dwellings and semi-detached dwellings. New parkland will also be zoned to implement this future public use. In addition to the zoning bylaw amendment application, a draft plan of subdivision application is also received. The draft plan of subdivision sets out some of these following characteristics: 20 new lots for single detached dwellings, 24 new lots for semi-detached dwellings, 1 block for future municipal parkland, 1 block for a future municipal stormwater management facility, and road allowances for new streets. And this slide is a concept plan showing the proposed residential development. Some highlights include the existing Elizabeth Street right-of-way will be utilized where it intersects Dede Street to provide the primary means of access for this phase of the development. The street will dead end in a cul-de-sac to allow for future expansion for residential growth to the west in the future, should that occur. This proposal includes a parkland block as well at the westerly extent of the new proposed Elizabeth Street. A block of land will be given to the municipality through this approval as well for a future extension of a street west of Camden. Stormwater management pond is strategically located at the south end of the proposed subdivision development. This pond will collect all road drainage and yard drainage into new municipal storm sewers to this pond, which will ultimately outlet nearby into the Sydenham River. As I had mentioned, there are other lands further west of the proposed subdivision that are planned for future residential development over time. On this slide, the proposed subdivision lands are denoted in a red outline. That is what is under Council's consideration this evening. The lands highlighted in yellow are simply to represent that there is the possibility of future extensions over time, and the characteristics of the proposed subdivision are conducive to allowing the efficient development of these lands when demand exists and when development interests moves to convert these lands to further urban development. To demonstrate some of the characteristics of full build out of this quadrant of Dresden, planning staff has prepared a fairly simple sketch indicating how the ultimate build out of this neighborhood could occur over time. But I stress that this developer and the applications before council today are not proposing this. This is simply for demonstration purposes only. In this image, the subdivision lands under these applications are located generally to the right of the image. As I pointed out, a future road connection of Camden Street could access lands further west, as well as the eventual extension of Elizabeth Street. Should lands further to the west develop, the entire subdivision would have 3 means of access and egress in and out of the subdivision. 1 potentially north on Isaac Street, 1 to the south on Camden, and the proposed intersection with Dede Street under consideration this evening. The proposed future expansion of these lands to the west also provide an opportunity to expand municipal parkland as it's strategically located now at the westerly extent of the subdivision, as well as a strategic opportunity to expand the stormwater management plan lands at the south end of the subdivision. These stormwater management plan lands also provide a needed buffer from the Dresden Water Pollution Control Plant, for which residential development is restricted within a certain distance. As council has heard, a number of public comments have been received in regards to this application. I've summarized the common concerns and in no particular order will review them. Some comments considered the existing state of the farmed land being open space and providing privacy to residents. As I pointed out, these lands are part of the Dresden urban settlement area and planned for residential development in the Chatham-Kent official plan. The density of the proposal is approximately 5.3 units per hectare. The Chatham-Kent official plan sets out that low density development can achieve upwards of 25 units per hectare. With regard to comments about the lands being regulated by the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, this is true. The majority of the lands in Dresden, as well as in this particular area, are what is considered flood prone. This does not represent a prohibition on future development. simply requires that any new development is required to meet St. Clair Region Conservation Authority regulatory standards for flood-proofing of buildings. So should the development be approved and move forward, the developer will be required to obtain permits from the Conservation Authority for the general subdivision works, as well as for future home building. The current grades of the farmland are not expected to be the final grades of the subdivision if completed. Grade differences between the subdivision lands and any abutting development will be addressed through the detailed design phase as a condition of final approval. Grades will be changed on the land to match abutting development. As well, lot grading on an individual lot basis will be employed to maintain stormwater on each lot. The use of rear yard catch basins will collect this water in rear yards and move it to the municipal right-of-way, to the municipal storm sewer, to be moved out of the subdivision and into the Sydenham River. New street lighting will be installed on all internal streets to the municipal standards. LED lighting is now employed. This type of lights helps to mitigate any outside light shining outside of the right-of-way and onto abutting properties. As mentioned, Chatham-Kent will acquire land for a future municipal park as part of this subdivision. Once the land is received by the municipality after final approval of the subdivision, it will become Chatham-Kent's responsibility to maintain these lands. Park development, however, would occur through the future prioritization of resources through life cycle and capital budgets. During construction, there will be noticeable impacts to the neighborhood. This comes in terms of traffic and dirt and debris. This is a temporary necessity of new construction in our community, but is something that the municipality endeavors to manage as appropriate. With regard to noise, construction activity is required to adhere to the municipality's noise bylaw. This noise bylaw prohibits construction activities after 11 p.m. before 7 a.m. and on Sundays and statutory holidays. Chatham-Kent has development standards which set out that developers should maintain a clean site. The developer shall maintain the construction site in a neat and tidy manner. Dust shall be controlled by wetting or establishing vegetative ground cover over the lands, and debris blown off site shall be cleaned up on a daily basis. All mud and dirt tracked off site shall be cleaned frequently and at least once a day. As some councillors may be aware, Chatham-Kent is currently experiencing a record amount of subdivision development around the municipality. Dirt and debris and dust nuisances are certainly occurring. This is an impact to neighboring residences, and it is unfair that for a short time they have to endure this. Through my experience, it takes all stakeholders involved to address this during construction. This includes Chatham-Kent through various divisions who interact with the developer and contractors on site. There is a responsibility of the developer's consultant to be on site and overseeing construction as it occurs. Constant communication is required between these parties and the contractors, as well as the eventual home builders, to ensure that these standards are being maintained to the largest extent possible. There are several concerns related to traffic increases in the neighborhood. While traffic will increase in the neighborhood, Chatham-Kent did not identify a traffic impact study as a requirement of this application. Generally, a threshold for requiring a traffic impact study is the generation of at least 100 new vehicle trips during a peak hour on any given day. This subdivision at 44 new dwellings would not meet this threshold, requiring a traffic impact study to be submitted. It is assumed that local streets are designed to accommodate the higher volumes of traffic as a result of this subdivision. Many comments received touched on the state of existing infrastructure. In general, all the existing streets in the neighborhood are monitored by Chatham-Kent over time. Repairs and replacements of these assets are prioritized and work is undertaken on an as-needed basis. As well, local improvement processes are in place, whereas local residents can petition for upgrades of infrastructure to include things like curb, gutter, and sidewalks, to name a few. It is recognized that the intersection of Camden Street at St. George Street, or the main north-south street in Dresden, does have restricted visibility. This is partly the result of the bridge over the Sydenham River immediately south of this intersection. This is an existing situation, and drivers will continue to need to take care as they navigate this intersection, as it will be the main intersection in and out of this neighborhood as it currently functions today. There is some existing industrial and agricultural traffic in the area. This non-residential traffic will not increase by the development proposal. This traffic is a result of existing land uses, and this is undertaken by others, including trucks in and out of the PUC managed facility at the end of Camden Street. The letters did point out that there are currently not sidewalks on Camden Street, west of Dede, and on Dede, south of Elizabeth. There are other sidewalks in the area, however. I should have pointed out that the new subdivision proposal will require new sidewalks on Elizabeth Street, connecting Dede Street all the way to the west end at the location of the proposed municipal park. Regarding future maintenance, such as snow clearing will occur in the future on any new street to meet existing service levels and using existing best practices. In sum, this proposal has been reviewed by municipal staff and are in support of approval of the subdivision as proposed. Therefore, it is recommended that zoning bylaw amendment application D14 DR 2821-0 be approved as set out in the planning report, and the implementing bylaw be adopted. As well, the draft plan of subdivision application D12 DR 02-21-0 be approved as set out in the planning report and subject to those conditions. Thank you, Mayor Cannon.
Councillor Foss.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to thank Ryan for addressing a lot of the concerns that were presented through the citizens in that area. I was just wondering if the developer would be willing to address any of the concerns that weren't mentioned through Ryan.
Yeah, I can comment on those. Thank you very much, Councillor Foss, for giving me the opportunity. So as you heard tonight from Ryan, about 12, 13 years ago, I did the development off of Davie Street. I developed that land, and we had similar concerns and similar situation where there's one access that the area hadn't seen any kind of activity like that over years, and we did our best to keep everything clean and tidy and contained, and definitely we had no issues especially during the road servicing part, because I think that's probably the time where things seem to be a lot of big heavy machinery just at the start. And then obviously I finished out the Leisure Lane subdivision. So, again, we added at least probably 50 to 60 homes back in that area. No concerns again. We had one way in, one way out, coming back out to Trevor Street. So one of the things I feel very confident about with this parcel is, one, we have Isaac Street that is an entrance to come into Dede to get into the new proposed phase, as well as we have Camden Street. But one of the unique things, especially where it might be handy for the road work itself, bringing different granulars and removing fill, those types of things when they are required, is there is access off of McCready. So you can come off of Robinson Road, and it's basically a gravel road that comes in off kind of the back end of Isaac. So that could be utilized as well if we felt that, and again, during times of year where it may be needed, because we obviously have to keep an eye on half load and discuss those items with Public Works. But I'm very confident as far as the development portion of this subdivision that we can maintain a good traffic flow. I mean, I fully understand the concerns that the surrounding neighbors have. It's very common to, see change in, your disrupting what they call their livelihood now. So we fully understand that. One of the interesting parts that, myself and my partners in this subdivision is we live in Dresden. We're part of this town. We live through the construction as far as the building homes go. I mean, I live personally on Leisure Lane. My wife and I, our partners, live here as well. So the construction portion of it as well. I mean, I've been doing this for well over 20 years, and you just have to be careful. You have to follow the guidelines as far as noise and keep things tidy. They're standard items, but we live here. We're proud to be from here, and I got to be honest with you, we're very, very excited to be able to bring potentially 44 more homes to the town of Dresden. I think if you'd asked me 4 or 5 years ago if this was even going to be possible in this town, I probably would have said, no, we're done. When Leisure Lane's finished, it's time to move on and find another town. But the demand is here. We have the perfect parcel that already has Elizabeth Street through it. We've got a perfect spot for our stormwater management. We've dedicated parkland. We do have those lots that were zoned, I guess, years back by the municipality in between the parkland and the stormwater treatment, that we've already addressed those with the landowner at the time, that we would not be building dwellings on there, but that's the way it is zoned. But we've already done that. We've taken care of that. We're trying to do everything possible to make this a smooth process. And I feel very confident that we've done that. And, on behalf of myself as the builder and the developer and my partners that are involved in this project, we're very, very confident that we can make this something that we can be proud of as members of this community, as well as something that Chatham-Kent can be proud of. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. I have a son that lives in the Leisure Lane and Davie Street development, and I've heard nothing but positive results during the construction and after the construction in that area. I know that change is scary, and people are afraid of the uncertainties, but in my opinion, there's a lot of positives by doing this. For example, it's brought a lot of people from outside of the Chatham-Kent area, as far as away as Toronto, Barrie, Owen Sound, that have bought homes in the subdivision which Dave just mentioned on Leisure Lane and Davie Street. I know that we're sort of the envy of some communities because we do have the ability to expand and provide the housing where other municipalities are struggling to do that. So with that, I would like to move that we accept the recommendations on the report.
Councillor McGrail.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'm excited for this. I understand, this is great for Dresden. This is excited for Dave and his partners, but we also need to move cautiously, which I'm hearing from Dave, and I'm understanding, as we move forward, we will take in the consideration, of those neighbors and move forward with good intentions. So I'm excited for this, and I look forward to this, and I am more than happy to second this.
Thank you, Councillor McGrail. Councillor Scotchy.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Just one question to the builder, very quick one. Just in regards to the time prospects, is there just an estimation of time before this subdivision would be completed if approved today?
As far as, are you asking when we will start road work, or just to clarify, or the overall 44 units themselves?
I mean, not the exact, maybe the completion, but just when this would kind of start getting underway to, let's say a quarter to 50% developed.
So, I mean, our game plan is obviously we'd love to be potentially building some kind of units by the end of this year. I know that all depends on everything working perfectly. I suspect construction of the subdivision itself will take 3 to 4 months by the time we do all the sewer work and grading and lighting and hydro and all the things that are required. Our overall plan is we would hope that this would be a 2 to 3 year project, a nice steady pace. Like, we're not interested in coming in and building every unit in 1 year. I think, I'm not saying that is impossible to do. We're just very cautious about how we move units and making sure that we protect the investments of everyone that buys in there, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods. That's very important to us. I mean, like I said, we live in here. I did the same thing with Leisure Lane. You're very picky about how things look, making sure that everyone has, an investment that they can be proud of. And again, wanting more people to move to the community, and potentially, if all goes well, you never know, sometime down the road, maybe expanding further. So, to be honest, I would say 2 to 3 years overall is a good, nice, even pace.
Thank you, Mr. DePenche, and very excited to see some growth from outside of Chatham proper, and looking forward to adding some new residents to our community.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
Council, we're waiting for one more vote. Just want to make sure if anybody's having difficulties finding or using it, please mention it now. There we go. All votes are in and motion passes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Moving on to 9B, application for zoning bylaw amendment. Brenda and Daniel Smolders, 5210 Finn Line, Community of Tilbury East, West Kent. Council, we have the agent on the line this evening, and we have no deputations. However, I do want to note that on Friday afternoon, we forwarded you 37 letters of support that were submitted at the time of the application, and we wanted to share those with council. But at this time, we have not received any deputations, so I pass it over to Mr. Mayor.
With that, Councillor Harrigan and Councillor Ochi, can I get you to move this, please?
Hi, Mayor Kenneth. I'll move the recommendations.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Harrigan, you had comments, then followed by Councillor Ochi.
Yep, I did just have comments to Mr. Jacques, I believe. Ryan, are you able to share why there's a requirement for a zoning bylaw for this particular initiative? The report, for those who are just watching, outlines a go-kart racetrack that is in use and will be proposed to be used for the public. So can you just share about why there is a zoning bylaw amendment needed, and if there are any currently zoned areas that allow go-kart tracks within CK?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Thank you for the question. So the reason that a zoning bylaw amendment is even required is that this is no longer a private use, like a use of the property owner and their family, just simply to utilize their own property for personal recreation. Once a property or any property starts operating their property or a segment of their property like a business, in this case, organized competitive racing, that's the element that really puts the proposal not in compliance with the municipality's zoning bylaw. Therefore, that that for-profit or business-like element of the competitive racing requires a zoning bylaw amendment. There are currently 2 other tracks zoned for this type of use within the municipality. One's nearby between this location and Tilbury. It was rezoned a number of years ago for fairly similar circumstances, where family and the other children were involved in competitive racing. That site continues to be zoned. However, it's no longer in operation, as that family and the folks who race there no longer do so. The other property, while I don't believe it's used for this particular use, is the South Buxton Raceway, which obviously is zoned for car racing, but could very well be utilized for other vehicles as well. Thank you.
Great. And just in follow-up, there are still, obviously, with the activity that's proposed, subject to any of our nuisance bylaws. So our noise bylaw was outlined in the report as an example. Can you confirm that?
Yes, I can confirm that. The noise bylaw does apply. And to highlight a couple of comments that were in the application submission and in the planning report, it noted that races would take place on Fridays throughout sort of the spring, summer, and fall. I've been advised by the applicant that there are actually a couple of Saturdays planned this summer if these types of activities are permitted at that time. So mainly the racing will be limited to Fridays with the occasional Saturday.
Great, thank you. Those are all my questions. I did have an opportunity to speak with some individuals who are very much in support of this, and also one of the residents nearby who did have concerns about things like noise and dust. But I do believe that our current nuisance bylaws certainly account for those concerns. So thank you, Ryan.
Councillor Oche, followed by Councillor Finn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a couple of questions. One of them would be, so only on certain weekends they can run on Saturday. Is that correct? Or like you're saying now that originally in the file it says every Friday. So now can they race also every Saturday, or how does this work?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. That's a good question. The nature of municipal zoning bylaws is that they can't actually limit a particular use from operating at any particular time. Therefore, the proposed zoning bylaw would actually allow racing on any day of the week at any time of the year. However, to provide an expectation to council and the public, the information that we've received from the applicant, from the property owner, is that the competitive racing would only happen on Fridays, and more recently we've understood a couple of Saturdays as well. But to be clear, the zoning bylaw would allow this activity on any day.
Okay, thank you. I also, through you, Your Worship, I received a phone call from someone who isn't really for this, but they want to make sure that it is only go-karts, not mini sprints or any other kind of racing vehicle. It will just be the go-karts only. Is that correct?
At this time, that is what's planned. That's correct.
Okay. Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Councillor Finn.
Just a comment, having boys that have been in this sport for many years, it's a sport that isn't for everybody, but you become like a family, and knowing the Smolders, it'll be a top-notch facility and they will take everything into consideration for their neighbors. That's it.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes. Moving on to 9C, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Ontario Limited, 1204977, Ontario Limited, 29108 Hughes Road, Community of Camden, North Kent. Mr. Mayor, I have no deputations and the applicant is not on the line.
Councillor McGrail and Councillor Foss.
I will move to put this forward.
Yeah, we just second it.
Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in, motion passes. Moving on to 9D, application for consent and removal of the H holding symbol, RM Auto Restoration Limited, and 1616330 Ontario Inc. 5 Classic Car Drive, Community of Harwich, South Kent. We have Councillor Salmon declaring a conflict of interest. We have not received any deputations, and the applicant is not on the line.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Scotchy.
Happy to move it.
Happy to second it, Your Worship.
Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
And all votes are in, and motion passes. Moving on to 9E, application for consent, Green Acres Industrial Park, Inc., 28 Mill Street West, Community of Tilbury, West Kent. We have not received any deputations, and we do have the agent on the line.
Councillor OJ and Councillor Harrigan.
So I would move that.
And I will second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Thank you. All votes are in and motion passes. Moving on to 9F, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Neil Rose and 2512267 Ontario Limited, 11972 New Scotland Line and 11977 Rose Beach Line, Community of Howard, East Kent. We have not received any deputations and the agent is on the line.
Councillor Wright and Councillor Pinsino.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I'd like to move that forward. And I'd like to second it, Your Worship.
Councillor Wright, do you have comments?
Nope, I just didn't get my hand down. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes. Moving on to 9G, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, RJ Properties, Inc., Fargo Road, Community of Harwich, South Kent. We have Councillor Carmen McGregor declaring a conflict. We have not received any deputations and the agent is on the line.
Councillor Sakachi and Councillor Latimer.
Very happy to put this on the floor, Mayor Caniff.
Happy to second it.
Councillor Scotchy, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I just wanted to make a couple brief comments about this project. Happen to know Brian Lytle very well. His father was a very well-established man in the sporting community of Blenheim, and one of his major goals was to ensure this piece of property in this bush was saved and protected for the actual bush and wildlife. By obtaining this piece of parcel here, they're able to create a buffer zone. And additionally, they're going to be planting various shrubs, trees, and natural features to enhance the wildlife. So this is just a really, really big win-win for our community. And it is one of the larger bushes in the Blenheim area that they've already obtained, and really hope that we have unanimous support by council on this project.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
And all votes are in. And motion passes. Moving on to the last planning application, 9H, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, John and Patricia Seronapikis, 30196 Clacken Road, Community of Zone, East Kent. Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding that planning is asking for this application to be deferred to the June 21st planning meeting with no further notice being required.
Okay, with that then, we will move to notices of motion.
Oh, no, you got to vote.
I would move that, Your Worship.
All right, sorry, Councillor Pinsino and Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I'll move that, Your Worship. I would second that. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no questions, we'll put it to vote.
And all votes are in and motion passes.
Okay, now we'll go to notices of motion. Councillor C. McGregor.
Thank you, and through the mayor. Whereas council's priorities and strategic direction for this term include economic prosperity, a healthy and safe community, people and culture, and environmental sustainability. And whereas these priorities include a dedicated focus on implementing strategies to help everyone become stewards of our lands within Chatham-Kent. And whereas Chatham-Kent Planning 2035 states that Chatham-Kent will continue to develop innovative approaches to addressing the protection and preservation of natural resources. And whereas Chatham-Kent's vision statement of a welcoming, healthy, prosperous community that is culturally rich and naturally innovative represents the kind of community we will and can become, including having respect for our environment and natural resources. And whereas there is no bylaw to prescribe the use of off-road vehicles with municipal-owned bush lots and/or properties, including those with potential stewardship relationships with our Conservation Authority partners, I hereby ask that administration prepare a report that includes the following. 1, identify any lands deemed appropriate for use of creating trails to accommodate off-road vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. 2, having discussion with the TSATV, which is the Tri-Shore ATV Club Lambton Kent, with regards to their stewardship program and willingness to develop trails for the use of off-road vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians within Chatham-Kent. 3, investigate the OFATV, which is the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs, agreement in other areas of Ontario as it applies to legal coverage and partnerships with conservation authorities. And 4, return the report to council so that the report aligns with the woodlot preservation report.
Any other notice of motion? Seeing none, we'll go to non-agenda business. Seeing no hands for non-agenda business, we'll move to Councillor O'Shea.
Worship. I just wanted to put a shout out to Tilbury with the tomato day yesterday. Approximately 6,400 tomatoes were handed out, and I'd like to thank the organizers and the volunteers, as well as our supporters who actually paid, sponsors who paid for everything. That's everything. Thank you.
Okay, prior to first, second reading, Madam Clerk, you had the.
Thank you, Council. Just a reminder for the reading of the bylaws, we will be removing the bylaws pertaining to 9H.
And Councillor Solomon and Councillor Foss, can I get you to move this, please? First and second reading.
Moved. Seconded.
Any questions? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, carried. Third and final reading, Councillor Pinsnow and Councillor Crew.
So moved.
Seconded.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Councillor C. McGregor for resolution council in closed session adjournment.
Thank you. And through the mayor, I would move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held on Monday, May 31st, 2021, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act.
Councillor B. McGregor, can I get you to second that?
Seconded.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. The agenda is complete. Thanks, everyone.